There is so much talent in this industry. Yet, there are the select few who have defined and continue to shape the high-end EDC folding knife category. What's the haps on the bear taps? Bevan here with Tried and True EDC. Today, I'm here to share examples from my collection that represent some of the best knife makers and companies from the good old US of A. The knives I'm about to showcase all have a retail price over $500. Some are small batch productions, while others are produced on a larger scale. I will introduce each model along with the associated maker and company. Then I'll talk about what makes them unique, what I like and dislike about them, and how you can get one. Without any further ado, let's dive in. First up, we have the Brown Knives Mini FSD. Based out of Blaine, Washington, Craig Brown, who is also an aerospace engineer, is the knife maker and designer. This one has a innovative brown lock, is what it's called, and it functions like a compression lock. So when you depress the button, it disengages the lock. What's unique about his knives is that he offers a wide range of customizations. So it ranges from the blade steel that's offered sometimes to different milling styles, as well as a wide spectrum of anodization. What I really like about this is how thin the hollow grind is. You can see those grind lines right there. It's extremely comfortable in hand. There are no hot spots, from my hand at least. It's also a very sterile blade. There's no markings, no branding anywhere. And it really brands the pivot pin right here. So there's multiple deployment methods. You can use the flipper tab, which I enjoy because the action and acoustics are very distinct. You can use a Spidey flick. You can also thumb roll it. There's really not much to dislike about this knife. It is simply gorgeous in my opinion. The only thing I would call out as a concern is that the button on his lock protrudes a bit. So if you end up choking up on the handle, there is a possibility that your hand, if you're really gripping it hard, if it engages and touches that lobe too much, you'll sense a bit of blade play. It's a vertical blade play right there. And there's a possibility that if you press down even further, that it could disengage the lock. It hasn't happened to me, however, that's something I wanted to call out. It's an excellent design. I have multiple models in my collection, ranging from the full-size FSD to the newly released Cortex XL. It's not that new anymore, but that's one of the newer models that he has. Next up, we have the Chris Reeve Knives Zaan. This is based out of Boise, Idaho. Chris Reeve is the knife maker. And if you're not familiar, Chris Reeve is the one that came up with what we all know as the frame lock. And he called it the Reeve Integral Lock. So anytime you see a frame lock, it pays homage to him. What's really unique about Chris Reeve knives is that they offer what's commonly referred to as a spa treatment. So their warranty service is extremely well done. If you ever end up scratching up the handle and you want to restore it, you can send it in and they will re-blast it. This has the glass blast finish on it, which is an extra $50. So there might be a charge if you wanted to get it glass blasted. I'm not entirely sure on that. However, if it was sandblasted, they would do it free of charge. And the only expense is the cost of shipping to them and the return shipping back to you. If you want it sharpened, they'll take care of that as well. And if by some chance you need your blade replaced, they also offer that, but there is a charge for that. What I like about this is the beautiful stonewashed blade, and the Zaan for short has the integrated back glass breaker. The position of the ceramic detent ball allows it so there's no stop at the detent ball. And it's placed really high up. Well, it's hard to see right now, but it's right above the lock bar. So as soon as you disengage the lock, it overcomes the detent ball, so you don't ever hit that stopping point. It's extremely easy to maintain. They provide you the tools and lubricant as well as thread locker to take apart, disassemble, maintain, and just makes it a really easy process. In my opinion, this Chris Reeve knives are the epitome of high-end folding titanium knives. It's got very well done jimping right here. The thumb studs act as a blade stop, both in the closed and the open position. It has these O-rings to kind of minimize the contact and impact on the handles. The Unknown Zaan, this is pretty much the plain Jane version, and it's one of the few models that he has where it has a set of milling done to the scale, the handles. The only thing I do not like about Chris Reeve knives is that, well, specifically this model, it's extremely hard to get. If you order directly from them, it's about a 6-year wait at the moment. Otherwise, when it drops on an authorized retail site, they tend to sell extremely quick. And if you don't get one from them, then you're still looking for one, and you don't want to do the 6-year wait, you're likely to be paying slightly above retail price on the secondary market, depending on the condition, of course. Ergonomics are good on this one. The pocket clip right here comes right in between my middle and ring finger. If you grip down hard enough, you may feel some hot spots from this portion of the pocket clip in your palm. Yeah. I really like how it has a subtle overbuilt feel to it. Gives you that confidence that it is going to be a long-lasting knife. That's a beautiful drop point. A nice wedge up top. And I like how the plunge line transitions to the edge and gives you really maximize the amount of edge you get on this knife. Next up, we have the Demko AD15. Based out of Newcastle, Pennsylvania, Andrew Demko is the custom knife maker for this model. He's done collaborations with Cold Steel and created what is really well known as the Triad lock. And what's unique about this one is that he created a scorpion lock. And how that works is that there's a spring back here that when you lift up, well, you don't have to lift up to open, but as you're opening it, it overcomes that spring tension and locks in place with that bar right here. And to disengage, you just lift up and it overcomes, allows you to, and as you lift up, it disengages the lock, allows you to close the knife. What I really like about this is that it has, for me, a very traditional take on the drop point, but also modified with a swedge. So lots of piercing reinforcement right here. It has excellent ergos. Feels very good in hand. And this is also fully ambidextrous. So you can swap the pocket clip and make it a left-handed carry, and you would still be able to just disengage. Where a lot of times on a frame lock, it's only on one side. So even if you swap the clip, it's not the same, it's not a symmetrical transition. I love the overbuilt feel in this in hand. It's a very stout blade. It's effective jimping, not too aggressive. These aren't as readily available anymore. You can get the cold steel version of the AD15, and outside of that, really just nothing to dislike about this. Now, there is a slight learning curve when opening the knife. So if you put too much pressure on the lock bar in the back, it makes it a bit difficult to open because that is what's keeping it in place. You need to kind of gently roll it out, but once you overcome that spring tension, then it's all good. So just a slight learning curve. Next up, we have the Hinderer XM-18. This is the 3.5-inch blade based out of Shreve, Ohio. Rick Hinderer is the custom knife maker behind this. And his knife designs do have influence from his real life experiences as a firefighter and EMT. What's unique about his knives is that he offers multiple options, such as different blade shapes, different customizations from swapping to a titanium scale. He has a Hinderer modular backspacer system, so I've added one where it has a glass breaker at the back. He has different finishes on the titanium side, as well as different G10 scale colors. So this started out as a G10 version, which is the stock that I got from DOT Trading. It's also an exclusive from DOT Trading. And I went and I got an aftermarket scale from Hinderer directly. So they released their own titanium scales, but you can get some aftermarket ones as well. And I also added the backspacer, which I mentioned. What I like about this, just about everything. Excellent ergonomics, feels great in hand. Maybe a tiny hot spot from the pocket clip. Spring retentions is very effective on the pocket clip. You can remake it a tip down carry if you wanted to. Multiple deployment methods. You can slow roll it out. You can flick it and then reverse flick it as well. And I do like how they offer on their newer generations of their models the tri-way system, which allows you to swap from bearings to phosphorus bronze or Teflon washers. This is currently running on bearings and it's quite smooth. And it also has that overbuilt feel to it. Excellent, excellent blade. This comes with a flipper style model as well. And I opted in for the non-flipper. Again, this is an exclusive from DOT. The only thing I would say that I don't like about it is it uses a specific pivot tool to assemble the pivot. All you need is a flathead screwdriver on this side. However, here, you need a specific tool for that. Now, I have found alternatives if you just use a flat edge that's thin enough to fit between these two slots. You can hold that in place as you unscrew it. So didn't take much. You can use the back of a razor blade. Excellent knife. Next we have the Koenig Arius. Bill Koenig is the custom knife maker behind this, and he's based out of Boise, Idaho. And what makes this unique is just the flipping action. The flipping action and the acoustics. It also has this very unique aesthetic to it that you know it's an Arius when you see it. What I also like about it is that it has a beautiful stonewash blade with some satin flats. It has minimal branding, so Koenig right there. And then when it's closed, you can see the steel being used. This one's M390. It has phenomenal ergos. As I'm gripping hard, maybe feel a bit of hot spot right here, but you can barely tell. And I also like how he has an internal stop pin, so you don't see that bar sticking out anywhere. and it just gives it a cleaner look. I've wanted a Arius for a very long time. This is a USA made blade exclusive, but you can find these on other authorized online retailers. DOT Trading is one of them, they'll carry it. And then I believe he also sells direct. The only nitpicks I would have and potential dislikes is that you can feel the edge of the corner of that blade right there with your finger. So that could potentially be a risk of you cutting yourself. And then the pocket clip is slightly stiffer than I prefer. Outside of those things, this is a excellent knife. Feels extremely confident in hand, very well built. Just gorgeous. Next, coming out of Phoenix, Arizona, this is the Medford Knife and Tool 187 DP. DP standing for draw point, and Greg Medford is the owner and lead designer. What makes his knives unique are the different finishes that he does on the blade, as well as the sculpting on the handles. Very well done, very symmetrical. This just adds this layer of dimension to it. And the blade finish on this is the Vulcan finish. And I actually did an interview with EDC Specialties recently, with Rob DeFeo from EDC Specialties, and he talks about how they go about doing the Vulcan finish. So I'm still working on getting that video wrapped up and before publishing. I like the overbuilt feel of it. It feels very confident. You can put it through real hard use. It has a smooth action. It has a springy clip. Easy in, easy out in the pockets. And I also appreciate the extended jimping that he has. So a lot of the times, knives jimping ends about right there. If you choke up and use this finger choil, you get a lot more jimping on top of the spine. So this allows you to extend your control. This also uses these are really just stop pins on the blade. But stops right there. However, when it's open, oh yeah, it uses for both open and close. And the only nitpick and dislike is the specific pivot tool you need to disassemble the pivot. I have a thing where I don't understand why higher end knives require that specific pivot tool. I do understand the uniqueness they're bringing because they want to stand out with a specific design on the pivot pin. However, you can include the pivot tool and not make your customers who already spent quite a bit of money have to go purchase one separately. I haven't found an alternative for this pivot, so if you know of any, feel free to throw that in the comments. Luckily, I haven't had to disassemble, clean this knife, so I actually traded this one with my buddy Kyle. I traded my mini Arius for this, and I really like it. The mini Arius was a little too small, so this kind of fits my preferences better. Medford knives are available all over the place. I've seen them on KnifeJoy, I've seen DLT Trading. There's probably a handful more, so you can definitely find them, but most of them, they fetch a pretty penny, especially ones with the sculpting. Or you can always check the secondary market. They tend to sell at a more reasonable price on the secondary market. It's got jimping in the back right here as well. Very cool. This one's D2 steel. if I haven't mentioned. Next, we have the Spartan Blades SHF. SHF standing for Spartan Harsey Folder. And this is coming out of Southern Pines, North Carolina. Curtis Levito and Mark Carey are the co-founders of Spartan Blades, and they are both retired U.S. Army Special Forces NCOs. This is the Ronin Gunfighter, laser engraved, and it's got a Chad Nichols Damascus blade on it. What I find to be really unique is actually the laser engravings. So this is just one of many different options you can get. I have a koi fish one in my collection. I've had a fir tree, the US flag, plenty of different options. My buddy just recently got the Spartan Babe. What I like about this is the oversized pivot. It's very comfortable in hand, especially in the saber grip right here. It's got extremely smooth action, almost as smooth as my CRKs. And I like how they added a detent ramp, so that way it doesn't really pause. There's a slight pause. I would call it more of a hiccup, but it doesn't just stop and then you have to overcome that detent to close it. So I do like the additions of detent ramps on knives, especially folding knives, well, obviously. It's got very effective jimping. So we got some on the back right here, the reverse grip. The details on their laser engravings are just out of this world. So beautiful. And the design is actually from Bill Harsey Jr., who is a renowned custom knife maker. Oh, look at that. I think the only two things I dislike, or more again, like nitpicks, is there's it's a pretty stiff pocket clip. And then also the plunge line there's no choil. I've sharpened a plain J model before, and if you're not careful, if you don't take the time to kind of tape this off or protect this portion, there is a possibility that you're going to over sharpen and then end up sharpening this portion right here. So something to keep in mind. You can get these directly from Spartan Blades. They also have a lot of retailers that sell their models, so plenty of availability out there. This specific one isn't available at the moment, but on the product listing, they've stated that they will be bringing this one back. They do have the one that doesn't have Damascus blade, and I believe that one's still available. But again, lots of different unique laser engravings, so a lot of different options. Next, we have the Strider Knives SMF. This is the fatty hybrid gunner grip. And coming out of San Marcos, California, Mixed Strider is the custom knife maker and designer behind this. So what I think is very unique about Strider knives, especially this model, as well as the SMG, because this is really just a larger version of it, is how unique the shape is. So the overall aesthetics, you can tell that's a Strider. I personally don't know of any other knife that looks like this, so I really love the looks of it. The lockup acoustics are very distinct, and it is quite smooth once you break it in. I wouldn't say this is fully there yet. It also has that overbuilt feel to it. And I recently did take this apart, so it is quite easy to maintain, which is going to lead me to what I dislike. So this requires a specific pivot tool as well. And on this end, you can just use a hex wrench, 1/8 of an inch, and the rest is T10 Torx bits. Now, I didn't want to opt in for the specific tool, so I looked online and I was able to find that Park Tool has a specific model, CNW-2, that you can use. However, I do want to say that I did purchase it and I used it. You can see those little slips and where it's kind of shiny. Well, that's because that tool as an alternative isn't a perfect fit for these slots. So something to keep in mind. I saw something else on Amazon that was kind of a knockoff tool that might have been better, but it's like $15 versus the $7 tool that I bought. So that's what I dislike. In addition to that, the lock stick. I've had 3 different striders and they all have, I don't want to say terrible, but if you want to, it's pretty tough. There's a point, I took this apart and it's helped, but prior to that if I really squeeze down, the lock stick got so bad that I would need to either disengage it like this or use 2 hands. I've heard great things that once they do break in, the lock stick will go away and, you know, super smooth. So I am not quite there yet with this knife, but hoping to get there. But I do like this. So the gunner grip right here. One of the ones that are really popular is the DGG, which is the double gunner grip. Both sides uses the same pattern. This one is a hybrid because of the fact the back is just the flame smooth titanium. Yeah, you can hear that lock stick. And that's not even that bad. Yeah. So. This is the Oz Machine Company Roosevelt, aka Rosie. This is using the radial frag pattern on this handle. And it's based out of Attica, Indiana. Daniel Osborne, he is the primary designer and maker. What I find really unique about the Rosie is there's 2 detent balls. So I'm labeling it as dual detent because one time I said double detent and that was incorrect. But it gives it that extra bit of lockup. It's very secure. There's no detent play. And also I love how they place the detent balls. Very similar to how they did this Chris Reeve. It's very high up, so as soon as you overcome the detent ball, there is no stopping point. It's just smooth closing from that point on. I love the blade shape. This also has very unique aesthetics to it. Excellent ergonomics. And really, this knife has to be used where your index finger reaches the top portion, which kind of acts and transitions into a choil, finger choil. So this for me just wouldn't work. This can't even get all 4 fingers on there. And so the Rosie, it's meant to be used like this. It has very subtle branding. It's pretty much a sterile blade, except for when you have it closed, you can see the Oz insignia, and then it also serializes each of their models. It's got recessed hardware right here. It's got effective jimping. Not too aggressive, not too subtle, just right. One thing I think would be nice if they extended the jimping, because as I was mentioning, you're not really using a knife like this. You're choking up, so if you're going too high up, it starts to smooth out right there. And I think if they extended the jimping, it would create more effectiveness as you're choking up on the knife. What I dislike about the Rosie is how difficult it is to get and from Oz direct. And if you don't get it from them and you really still want it, then you're most likely going to pay a markup on the secondary market. I got really lucky with this one because they actually did a pre-order. This has been, I want to say, over a year, at least probably closer to 2 years. And they really had a pre-order. I'm not entirely sure how many, but I was able to get in on it. And even though that product listing for that pre-order did sell it really quick. However, first come, first serve, you've got to have some of the fastest internet connections in the world. And their lottery system, well, I've been trying for about 2 years and I haven't been selected. So you're just gonna have to get lucky there, or get all your friends and family to join all the time. So that's really the only thing I dislike. I honestly think this is possibly one of the best high-end 3-inch EDC folding knives there is. It is just excellent. It's a beautiful stonewash on the blade. The cutout is very generous, extremely easy to reverse spidey click it. You can use a thumb hole as well. I will caveat by saying this: I haven't put it through extensive use, so I can't speak on how much snagging this oversized cutout could be. I mean, there's a reason why there's such high demand for this knife. But they've really shocked the world and really shook it up with this knife. And I mean, the demand for it is just out of this world. Very comfortable in the reverse grip as well. Just amazing. All my kudos goes to this one for one of the newer knife makers in the industry. Last up, we have the Prince Customs Protean. And this is from Houston, Texas. That's where it's based, and Princeton Wong is the designer and knife maker for this. What I really think is unique about the Protean is the way everything flows, right? So one thing I noticed, I was looking through all these knives, even the Rosie, and while the Rosie is pretty close, you know, you don't see too much of the ricasso when it's open. You don't really see any of the ricasso when this is open. And just from the top of that handle, it perfectly transitions into the plunge line, and it just flows really well. And even when it's closed, just the way the cutout is done that follows the contour of the handle, done an excellent job. Even the line right here, the milling on the pocket clip, flows into the cutout, the lock bar. And that is not by coincidence. There's definitely design elements that went into that. Just everything flows so well. Even the way the blade is ground. The hollow comes down here, and then it sweeps up right here. It's got a swedge, so it does give you a bit of reinforced tip. What I really like though is the action on this thing. It's great. It's got unique acoustics as well. Probably a little bit more subtle, let's say, compared to the Arius. And it's also got a detent ramp, which I think if you don't have the detent ball set up high on the lock bar, you should have a detent ramp, because as soon as there's a quick, tiny pause and then just overcomes it. You barely feel it at all. Just makes it for an easier transition as you're closing it. You don't have to risk where it stops at a detent ball, and as you overcome it, it snaps in. There's very subtle branding. I love how Princeton put his insignia right here on top. If you're not familiar, it's based on the traditions of Asian culture, specifically Chinese, where 8 is a lucky number. And so it's actually an infinity sign, which also can double up as 8. And the reason why 8 is because it represents and resembles an infinity sign. It's very comfortable in hand. I do like the jimping. It's very well done. And I would say to extend the jimping a little bit more, kind of like what I said about the Rosie, but I realized he wouldn't be able to have his logo there anymore. So, and really, you don't need to use this portion of the plunge line to get up there. Kind of treats it like a choil, a sharpening choil, as well as a finger choil, because you could choke up just a little bit, give you a bit more grip. But even without it, perfectly fine. Get a 4-finger grip on this one. Only thing I dislike about it is that you can feel the blade when it's closed. So the edge right there, I can feel it. And it doesn't take much. I can just press down just a tiny bit and I can feel it. So there is a potential risk that you could cut yourself. It hasn't happened to me. However, something I wanted to point out. And it's really nice to see that Princeton is getting a lot more popularity with this model. When I first grabbed this, it was quite easy. And so the best way to get one of these, I saw it recently on KnifeJoy. So good for him for getting that account open for him to sell his knives, create more exposure. But you can buy it directly from Princeton. He does drops on his website. And I want to say maybe once a month. It's kind of slowed down a bit. It was a little bit more frequent when I first got this, but he's got different designs now. He has a different blade shape, different patterns on different milling patterns on the handle. All right, so we've talked about all of these, and in my opinion, as part of my collection, they represent some of the best high-end EDCs I think there is out there. Not only the knife itself, but also the maker and the company. So I wanted to share that with everyone. Let me know what your thoughts are, any comments you may have. Happy to engage in discourse and conversations out there. So as always, really appreciate your time and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Stay frosty.